I know I've probably said this before, but I think this is one of the cooler things we've ever had around the shop. I think this thing's got a pretty big old motor up underneath here. 430, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I bet you this sucker's locked up solid.
Maybe not. Probably so, but maybe not.
It's rough inside here though. Woo! Oh gosh. Yeah, floor, look at that. Floor's about to give way there. All this stuff's gonna have to be rebuilt though. Need to figure if this thing will run, because if it won't run, it really don't matter what kind of shape the inside is. Ugh, not good at all. Look at all that rust on that one. Oh gosh. Man, that one is bad rusty.
It's not a good way to start.
Definitely gonna have to get something to break that rust loose though, because there ain't no way we need to turn it over like that. There ain't no way it's gonna turn over. I don't know if that's vinegar or water, well, but it definitely ain't oil. Oh man.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this before.
Yep. Pretty bad. Pretty stinking bad. Pistons that are stuck, lifters that are stuck, valves that are stuck. Is that expandable foam? That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Wow. That literally looks like expandable foam.
Yeah.
I think this one had to be rebuilt. So guys, today we're going to be picking up on this old 1960 Lincoln camper. Now when me and Dad left off on this project, we had high hopes of hearing this original engine fire up and run for us. Unfortunately, as we dug into it a little bit deeper, we found the inside of that engine in terrible shape. We asked you guys if you'd be interested in seeing us move forward on this project, and the positive response we received was absolutely overwhelming. So at this point, we're just going to go ahead and get up underneath the car, see what it looks like up underneath there, and hopefully remove this original 430 engine and transmission to examine it a little better. Wow, it's actually in pretty good shape.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So it is a unibody car.
Yeah.
I know we had a couple comments saying that, but I wasn't for sure how in the world they made that work, but they just left the whole, all the floor pans are still here.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking to see if this front clip could come off, but there's no even a seam there.
Oh yeah, it's all one piece. Well, one thing we got going for us is it's in pretty good shape. It ain't rusted out, still got the old, you know, undercoating and stuff on it. We do have like a cross member here though, which is going to definitely help with the amount of weight we possibly might be putting up front here if we do go with that diesel. But from what I read up, that 430 weighs around 750 pounds.
Yeah.
Where that 12 valve would be about 950, so they're not far off.
Not far off from each other, no.
Still has a drive shaft up here. Get it pulled off. Maybe undo this cross member, transmission cross member, let it drop down. This exhaust is already cut, and that one we may have to cut again.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll be too hard getting this one out of here, huh?
I don't think so.
Pretty neat, man. I just can't believe they used that much of the original car.
Right, yeah, it's...
So I guess there's a subfloor up above the car floor inside the camper, you know?
Almost have to
that's
be,
the
yeah.
part that's kind of rotted out. Well, that's a lot less intimidating.
Yep.
I think at this point we probably just need to go ahead and start pulling loose the drive shaft and all that stuff up underneath there. Look how bad that cylinder looks now. Let's just sit and dry it up some. Things are terrible.
Yeah.
I just really don't know that that has any life left in it. But till we get it out, ain't no way you can try to figure out any more anyhow. I'll go grab some tools, and while we got it up, let's pull that stuff loose, and then I think we can get it yanked out of here. All right, go ahead and just pull that transmission mount right there, and then pull the whole transmission cross member, huh?
I think so.
Easy enough. It's got two here. I got two more up inside there too.
Yeah, I see that.
Let me try to get this jack up underneath there. Those are just threaded right in, so there's not nuts on the other side. You want to grab, or go ahead and get those two.
Alrighty. I'm gonna leave mine part of the way in, that way it doesn't just, when it gets ready to drop, it doesn't just drop down.
We'll have to get some kind of an extension and maybe a swivel of some sort, I guess. See it moving.
Yeah.
There you go. Come out. Man, I'm looking at this oil pan on this cross member. There is not much room in between it there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's almost touching.
Got something tickling my forehead.
All right, so now the only thing that's holding it is going to be this jack right here.
Right, yeah. And what crud's up underneath it, stuck onto it.
Still going to have to pull that drive shaft loose from that rear end, I guess. Let me try to see if I can let it down just a hair, if that pulls yours loose from the frame. There we go. I don't know what that thing right there even is.
It feels solid.
All right. Should be able to get this off now. Boy, every piece of this car is so stinking heavy. I can just tell this right here is super heavy too.
Oh yeah, when it drops, it drops.
I don't know if it's all the dirt or just metal.
Combination of the two.
I can try to get that drive shaft loose from the rear end if we can get underneath it that far.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure they're bad anyways. Cool. Will it pull out of the transmission? Probably gonna lose a lot of fluid if it does. Or we can just leave it. Yeah, okay. Let's just leave it for now so we ain't dumping a bunch of fluid on the ground. You think, I don't know, now that we've got that cross member pulled off that transmission, what if we just went ahead and pulled all the bell housing bolts and just let the transmission drop out of the bottom instead of trying to fish both of them out of the top? If we can pry it loose, let the transmission drop out of the bottom, I might have to lift the car up higher and pull it out, but then we're just straight up with the engine.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot easier because trying to swing that up and everything else.
It's long. That transmission is long.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
There's probably some on the bell housing. Take that starter off while we got it up in the air before we set it down, you know. Get those loose and then take the ones loose up top there.
Yep.
So we went ahead and pulled off all the bolts we could find on the bottom end of the car on the bell housing, lowered it off the forklift so we could get to the top side of the car, removed all the top bolts from the bell housing. Now at this point we're hoping that we've got everything broke loose and hopefully we can just wedge this transmission and engine apart and drop the transmission from the bottom. It's coming.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think the transmission's sliding very well back there, you know.
Right. And the motor can't go.
Right.
Much.
I'll try to get up here.
I started to say that may be the best thing is to.
Ready?
Yep.
Something on the bottom side of mine over here. I don't know if it's that brace. Let me look up underneath there. You know, it had that little support.
Yeah.
No, it ain't that.
One thing we got to watch out for is while we're prying now, we don't get down in between the flywheel and the, because we use the flywheel as a pry thing and we're just fighting ourselves on it. I think if we can get right on them little earlobes.
Coming, ain't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see if I can drop this jack down some.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that helped. There it went.
Fell out, didn't it? Is it completely out?
Yeah, we're
I'm gonna pull this jack out if I can.
Okay.
There we go.
That's why it dropped down.
Phew. Oh yeah, it's definitely got everything loose there.
Yep. May have to take that loose. Where it goes in down there.
I wonder if we just lift it with the forklift at this point, if we can't just drag it out.
Should
We have to lift it quite a ways though to clear that, huh?
Yeah.
Let me try to lift it up and see what it looks like.
Okay. I think it'll come out.
Huh?
I think it'll come out without having to remove that piece.
I knew we had to be getting close to the back bumper dragging. Yeah. We're all the way on the ground back here, so.
Probably best if we take that drive shaft out at this point, get that out, and then just bring that
Pull it
sideways.
this way.
Yep.
Just grab. Let me go grab a chain or something. Find a spot to hook onto?
Yeah, I think it'll work.
Shouldn't take much, as long as it don't dig into the ground.
Right. That's good. It flipped it, but it still got it out.
That's a long booger, ain't it?
Yeah.
Wonder if we can just get it out. I guess I can just pull that drive shaft loose at this point. Hopefully it don't dump a lot of fluid. Should be good enough for now, huh?
Yeah.
Let it back down and try to grab that motor, I guess.
Good? It'd come this way still.
Tell me when. Right there?
A little more. Right there. You can come back just a little bit, high forward. Okay.
Right there?
Yeah, I think so. Wait. Back towards me a little bit more. Okay. Just sit.
Tight squeeze, huh?
Yeah, we're hung right on the very tip of that.
Come forward again.
Maybe down just a hair. Okay. Now back up.
Hang on. Keep coming?
Yeah.
Look okay?
Yeah. You can go back towards you just a hair. I think we're okay, but I'd rather not find out we're not. Okay, now up.
Keep coming?
Keep coming.
Backwards.
Keep going up.
I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
So.
Just, okay. Okay, come up. Okay. All the way you want to go back towards you.
Come on.
Don't want the water to get down in there.
Yeah. Looks even rougher out of the car than it did in the car.
Yeah.
Man, that's bad. So guys, this is where we're going to start round 2 of this project. When we left off on our last video, we had introduced this old 1997 Dodge Ram 2500. And up underneath the hood of this truck, we've actually got ourselves a 12-valve Cummins Diesel. Now, we asked you guys what you thought about us putting this diesel into that camper, and I have to say, most of y'all want to see that happen. With that being said, there's a lot of comments that are kind of betting against this of whether or not it's going to work. Is the engine too long? Is the engine too tall? Is the engine too heavy? And what me and Dad don't even know at this point is, does this engine even run? So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. You can tell some animals have been up underneath the hood here, but for the most part, these engines are pretty mechanical and pretty easy to work on. So without further ado, we're going to dive in, hopefully hear this thing run, and be able to make a decision. Do we move forward with the diesel, or do we move forward on trying to rebuild this 430? Guess I'll go ahead and check this oil. Golly. Yeah, you could use a quart. A long dipstick.
I started to say, you may lose that much oil just pulling the dipstick out.
I think we need to clean that up.
Yeah.
I don't want stuff to get hot, and I don't know really. I'll get the vacuum.
Right, be the easiest, just suck it up and be done with it.
And 2 batteries. I'm gonna need to clean these battery cables up for sure. Other than that, I guess let's clean that up and start cleaning these battery cable ends up.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull this filter off, make sure nothing's been getting up inside it, making a house.
Alrighty.
That's all we need is to suck a bunch of stuff up into that turbo. Wow, this filter's good shape. Well, top side was a little dirty, but no rat's nest in there. I don't know how long this thing's been off the road. 2017, so that's what?
2017.
6 years?
Yeah.
At least. I noticed back here, it's been sitting around long enough, we've got a couple little trees growing in the bed of this thing. I'm gonna clean these while you suck that out of there.
Alrighty. All I'm doing is sucking up trash. It feels like big chunks.
Bunch of pecans and stuff. Should be good. We do have keys to this at least. Inside of this thing is just completely trashed and robbed of a lot of parts. Do have the keys still in the ignition though. So we know we need some water or coolant in there, but you know that's not going to keep it from cranking up. Is there any transmission fluid showing on the? At least have an idea if there's any in it.
It's wet on the end of it, but let's get a good reading on it.
something in it.
Yeah, it's something in it.
Just curious if it has any brake fluid. Well, yeah, it's even got brake fluid. Hopefully she'll crank up and actually even, you know, we can drive it to make sure because,
yeah.
Oh man, if we use, you know, this engine, we'll be using the transmission as well, so we want to be sure we know we got a good transmission too.
Right.
Still didn't get that on there right now. Grab a couple batteries, I guess.
Use this yellow top over here.
Yeah. Well,
give it a whirl.
So 6 years, at least, this truck's been sitting untouched. I just know how dependable these engines are. I'm probably gonna regret these words later, but it could just fire right off. I don't even know, let me see if there's any fuel, if the fuel gauge works. Got dash lights. It's showing over a half a tank, but it's hard to say, you know.
Right. Could be half a tank of water.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, we may not have fuel, or maybe water in the fuel, or maybe air in the lines.
Right.
Try it one more time.
Oh, there we go.
I think she's gonna run.
She's gonna run. She's gonna run good too.
Yeah. We definitely want to get some water in it, let it get up to temperature for sure. I'll try to rev it just a couple times. Hey, we got good oil pressure. Good oil pressure, yeah.
So we want to put some water in it,
Yeah.
let it get up to temperature, then see if it'll go into gear.
Yeah. Let's see if there feels like there's a brake pedal. Feels like we got brakes. All the gauges are working. I mean, they're moving anyways. Not sure if we're charging, that's a little below. It should be charging. Temp gauge hasn't moved yet. Fuel gauge shows close to 3/4 and 45, 50 pounds of oil pressure.
Pretty good. It took less than a gallon to fill it up.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty smooth, ain't it? I mean, for a diesel, they're always kind of noisy and vibrate a lot anyways. turbo sounds good too. I can hear it. Let me try to see if it'll go in gear. I don't have anything to sit on. Yeah, there's a bucket seat. Wow, wish I wouldn't have done that. Oh yeah. I think other than just some old fuel, I feel if the fuel was a little bit better shape, it'd be running a little smoother.
You sure are brave. I just see my knuckles getting into that fan there.
Well, I'm checking to see if it looked like it had any blow by, any smoke coming out of there, but it don't. See if it, keep an eye on that when I rev it.
Not really. Not really. I mean,
This will be cool in that camper.
yeah.
I guess we need to see if it'll shift out, huh?
Yeah, that's another thing. Just because it goes into gear doesn't mean it's gonna shift out.
Went ahead and topped off the oil. Tried to let this thing warm up to temperature, but I don't know if our gauge isn't working or what. But we're gonna go ahead and try to see if this thing drives. Never thought about checking power steering fluid, but feels like it's slipping. Yeah, we're slipping in reverse. That ain't no count. We're slipping in reverse. Check that fluid again. It could be that filter. Yeah, I'm in neutral. Well, that might have been why this was parked in 2017. Try to add some. I don't even know if we've got the right fluid. We'll have to check. Thought it was better at first. Forward seems fine. It seemed a little stronger at first, but it's still slipping. Forward seems fine. Look like it's on the full mark. Looks it, don't it?
Yep.
Does it smell burned or anything? Oh, I'm gonna kill it. I don't know, only thing I'm hoping for is maybe it's that transmission filter.
Right, and it
If
could be.
it's sucked up some trash or something, or just needed to be changed.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, it is actually going into reverse. It's just not got any.
Slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Forward seems like it's definitely better than reverse, but
Right.
it's for sure slipping. I think we're gonna have to pull that pan off and see if there's any metal down in it and try to change the filter. If not, I think this truck needs a transmission.
Right.
Ooh, that thing's pretty grimy up underneath here.
Yes, definitely.
You can tell it's been leaking for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's coming out of that pan gasket or something up higher. I think it's been coming out of that pan gasket.
Probably
though.
right. Yeah.
Old pan's got some grime on it there too, but this here is pretty wet still. I guess we'll start pulling them bolts. See what it looks like in there. I'll grab that pan.
Alrighty. You get me a different socket. Look,
What side?
13.
Huh?
13.
13?
Yep.
Going the right way?
Yep. This one. Well, it's had it.
Starting to drain.
Yep.
Oh. Just gonna have to let that drain out.
Yep.
I got catching it all there, ain't I?
Pretty well catching most of it.
Like I said, this is something that's always super messy that
Yeah, that
drain
can be
plug
avoided.
would
Yeah.
completely fix. I think that should have it where we can drop it down, huh?
I
Set
think
it on
so.
top of that pan. Oh gosh.
That's it.
Yes. Woo. Yeah, we got a big old puddle over here. Yeah, it is.
Right. If you don't make a mess, you ain't making no mess.
At least it looks like we're working at this point. It doesn't really look. Oh no.
Got extra
mind.
parts?
Yep. I got little pieces down in there. Filter ain't gonna fix that. So just looking here at the bottom of the transmission, you can see our filter that we were hoping we could pull off and change that. Had a lot of vehicles in the past where reverse starts slipping, you pull off this filter, put a new filter in it, new fluid. A lot of times it'll fix it. Now let's actually finding pieces of metal down in the pan though. Just changing out that filter is not going to be enough, unfortunately. So at this point, even though this filter has some grime on it, finding that stuff down in there it's just gonna have to be rebuilt. Don't know a whole lot about transmission, so until we get that out, it's gonna be hard to tell exactly what's went wrong. I know a lot of you guys probably seen it and know exactly what it is, but at this point, we just don't. So with that being said, do we go ahead and move forward with pulling this motor and transmission out of this truck and hope that the engine runs well enough to push that old camper down the road? We'll have to drop off the transmission, get it rebuilt, and the first time trying it out will actually be in the car. At this point, I feel like the engine's running pretty well, and I myself think we should move forward with that. Now, a lot of you guys ask, why don't we go ahead and just use the stock frame of this truck up underneath the Lincoln? The problem with that is we found out that that car is a unibody car, and we really want to have this thing on the ground when we build it. So yes, we could put this complete frame up underneath that unibody car. It's going to be hanging down a good 8 inches because this frame is just super thick, and the car is just going to be sitting way off the ground. Had it be 4-wheel drive, that would be kind of cool, but being that it's not, it's 2-wheel drive, it's just going to look super goofy. Another major problem up front here, this is a pretty wide truck. So in comparison to that old Lincoln, our track width is just going to be way off. So if we were to put this frame up underneath that car, the wheels and tires would just really poke out there and look extremely goofy in my opinion. So at this point, I think a person would have to try to make this 12 valve work in that unibody frame. Is it going to be strong enough? Maybe we could possibly make it strong enough. Is the engine going to be too tall? We've dealt with that before where we've had to cut the oil pan down and widen it where we could actually tuck it up underneath the hood. At this point, it's one of those things that's really hard to know until we get this engine and transmission out, start measuring it, start lining some stuff up, and just see if we can make it work.
I think so.
I'm gonna lift it just a little bit. Look fine?
It's fine. I think it just positioned itself in better.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get that transmission dropped down now though.
Yep.
Because I think we're about to hit.
Yeah, we're pretty close there.
There. Ugh. Should be one bolt on each side still, but. think how we want to do this. I guess we want to put this underneath the pan there if we can. Alright, that's got us lifted off of it. Stuck on there. You got a better place to swing up top here. My goodness. There it goes. Go ahead and pull this out. Can't believe someone stole our catalytic converter. Still on this motor mount over here. And then it's, you know what we might have to do? There we go.
It went in.
We're just at such a terrible angle there. Come up?
Yeah. It's just hung right back there on that cowl. Can you go backwards? It's just right there. I bet it's where that bolt thing that holds that thing down. There it goes.
There it goes.
Just a sec.
Can you come
down
back
just
some?
a hair?
Huh?
Come down just a hair? Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and start letting it down.
Okay.
We got a tire or something we can maybe set that on? Look good?
Yeah.
That's kind of a pain. So now that we've got both of these engines out of the vehicles and side by side here, it kind of gives you guys just a little bit of a size comparison of what we're working with. We've got our 5.9 liter Cummins Diesel out of our Dodge, and then our 7 liter 430 MEL big block that come out of the Lincoln here. So actually seeing them side by side, I mean the Diesel is obviously bigger, but I mean they're pretty close. When we've got our air cleaner on the carburetor of this 430 versus the top of that, they're not going to be too far off on height wise. Both of them are pretty much setting down on their oil pans right now, so we'll have to get a tape measure out to see exactly how close they are, but I have to say they're definitely closer than I thought they'd be. Now, getting a little bit of a side profile here, obviously we don't have this transmission flush up with the block here, but to look at the transmissions, very, very similar in length. And if we was to pull that up a little closer, we're going to be a little bit longer on this diesel, but not much at all. Now, one thing I noticed when we were pulling this engine out, about, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches of this bell housing of the transmission actually stuck past the firewall there. So on this design, our block just kind of goes just straight off back here, and we've got a little bit more of a slope to work with. So hopefully we'll have better luck of clearing this bell housing up underneath the firewall than the way this was. Now, one thing I did notice on a difference, a major difference, our oil sump on the front of our pan on the Lincoln is actually up front, where on the Dodge, it's back in the back there. Now we do have a cross member that actually ran along the back side of this oil sump right here. So that's gonna be a problem we're gonna run into, where they're on the wrong side of where they need to be. So if we try to get that thing down in there, that's definitely something we're gonna address, but we don't really know front to back where that thing's even gonna land to make it work. But that right there is pretty much just showing you guys the difference in them in size. Now actually width-wise, it appears this old 430 is going to be a little bit wider than this inline 6, which only makes sense, but we do have our turbo coming off on this side and a few little things on this side right here. Now weight, from what I read, this diesel weighs around 200, 250 pounds more than this old 430 block does. But one thing about it is this old cast iron transmission right here is extremely heavy. So we're going to be losing the weight of this cast iron transmission in comparison to this aluminum transmission here. So hopefully we might be able to justify the added weight of the block with the subtracted weight of the transmission there. Now, a lot of you guys wanted to see this old factory engine being rebuilt, which would have been pretty cool, but now knowing that we have a running diesel engine, I just don't know that it's going to be worth the time and the money to tear into it. We actually just got some of this stuff sitting on here, and that is extremely heavy. This will kind of show you what our lifters look like down in here. And these front ones, man, they are just absolutely terrible. We could let them soak and probably get them out, but I don't think that was going to be the majority of our fight. One thing I saw, which I don't think you guys can tell, right down through this hole you can actually see the cam, and just the lobes on that, they look terrible. So this thing would need a absolutely every piece, every bolt, complete rebuild. Top side of our heads don't look bad, but we pull them off here, the back side of them, look at that. Those valves right there have not been open for a very, very long time. Those were two of our worst cylinders. So we're looking at head work as well. Heads being completely rebuilt. This was the better side of the engine. This cylinder right here and piston, it's not ate out as bad as that side over there, but you can see we had put some different types of solutions in there to try to clean it with, and now that all that's dried out, it is just, it's terrible. I mean, it's probably one of the worst I've ever seen. So at this point, we've talked to people, we've tried to make an effort of wanting to move forward with that, but at this point, with this engine being as bad as it is, it just really doesn't make sense. The money we're going to put in it, the time we're going to put into it. When we pulled this transmission down here from the other place, water come out of it. So we know we've got a transmission that has problems right here on the Dodge, but we've got a bad engine. We probably got a bad transmission. At least with this old Dodge, we've got a good engine. So we know that most of you guys were interested in seeing this big old diesel be put in that camper anyways. So at this point, we're just gonna go full force into making that happen. Our next problem though, is it is extremely hot outside here, and with our old garage door we've got right now, there's just no way that camper will fit inside here. So we're either gonna have to tough it out and work in the heat, or get us a new door. Well guys, I definitely have to say that we've come way too far to stop at this point. Now it may not seem like we made a lot of headway on this video, but getting both engines pulled out of these vehicles we were working on is going to be a huge step forward of seeing this camper back on the road again. When we got this old original engine and transmission pulled out of the car, we knew up front that it needed a ton of work. Now on the old Dodge pickup truck, we really had no idea of what kind of shape that thing was in. After only putting a set of batteries on it and turning the key over, she cranked up real easy and was purring like a kitten. Now we did have a transmission problem that was causing the truck to slip when in reverse, so after pulling the pan on that, we found out that that was going to have to be rebuilt. Now there's still a ton of people that are betting against this engine even fitting in this car, and at this point we really don't know ourselves. We did find out that this is a unibody car, so we're going to be struggling with knowing that all this stuff's going to be strong enough to support the weight of the new diesel engine. It's definitely going to be a tight squeeze. We're working with a taller engine, we're working with a longer overall length, so there's a lot of questions that we still just don't know the answer to. At this point, we're only scratching the surface of what we have planned to do with this cool Lincoln camper. On the inside, we still haven't touched a thing, and that's going to be a whole nother ball game in itself. We hope that you like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow along on this build. And thank you so much to all of our subscribers, and a huge shout out to those who have recently followed our channel, specifically to see this car be built. Be sure that you guys check out our Turn and Rust channel for some more automotive content as well, and we'll see you on the next one.